What is up? Welcome back to the 817 podcast. Jimmy and I are doing this quarantine style as we are virtual. First time in a long time. How you doing, Jimmy?
Pretty good. How about you, man?
Hey, you're not here, but I'm seeing you on Zoom right now, and you're looking great in your Mandalorian sweater.
Almost as good as in person.
Which, if you guys want to see the Mandalorian sweater yourself, Jimmy Christmas will be on NBC, so you could see this Mandalorian sweater. It's worth it, I promise. How you doing, man? It's been, I know we did the pre-recording of Cameron Cushman, which I thought was an awesome show. Got some different listeners to the pod. And all in all, it seemed like his Global Entrepreneurship Week was pretty active. So haven't really spoke to you in a while. How's things going?
Yeah, it's pretty good. We've, just been hunkered down as we get ready to go out of town. Wanted to give us that couple weeks of making sure we were separate from people. But yeah, I feel like it's been a little bit of a slow news couple weeks outside of Rudy Giuliani sweating hair dye and losing court cases.
Yeah, no, it's I think for everyone, we'll skip this next Sunday just because, we'll be on the holidays. Jimmy, where are you going to be? It's also, let the world know where Jimmy's headed to Disney World, I believe.
Yeah, we'll be at Disney World. Not doing anything super different from what we do here, not sitting in restaurants, like staying away from people. But there's a lot to do there. There's a lot of outside things to do there. And we're really excited about the change of scenery and hopefully really get us rejuvenated for this final stretch, whether it's like 6, 8, 10 months of getting vaccines distributed. How about you? How are you feeling?
Good, man. I mean, doing the same old. I wish I was more proactive like you and the fam. I just do the same thing over and over again. But yeah, it's going good, man. And for me, the holidays are crazy. COVID. I mean, I guess we could just start with COVID because unfortunately, I know everyone's tired of talking about COVID, but I feel like it leads the news here locally as we're having ridiculous cases that are just, not good for all of us. Betsy Price, Wayborn, everybody, it's a fad now. It's not even cool anymore if you got it. It's that popular. But yeah, so I'm going to be staying in the fort for Thanksgiving. Was going to go home, but I went to a 30th birthday party of 10 people and 2 tested positive. So me and my wife went and we did not test positive, but we're also just my family's crazy, I mean, it'll be like all my brothers and stepbrothers and family, and I know none of them care about what's going on. None of them have been nearly as trying to be as responsible as me and my wife. So it's gonna be like, I ain't trying to hang out with all y'all. Y'all probably had it 5 times already.
Yeah, yeah. And our original plan was to we're gonna go see my parents in Sarasota, Florida, but it just started out with too many people saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to go too," and I was just like, "Nope, we are not going to that." And so, minus the big family part, we still get to go and be in a different place. But I mean, Tarrant County is beating Dallas at something. And that is daily and weekly COVID cases and hospitalizations and ICU beds occupied. I mean, scientists have been warning us for a few months now that the winter was going to be tough. And I think Halloween was really the Kickstarter for everything. If we look at the timeline for how this has played out, about 2 weeks after Halloween was when we started to see increases in cases. Now we're continuing to see that. Hopefully enough people are canceling their Thanksgiving plans. I really hope that people are choosing to not gather, because that's going to be a very tough situation when a month later, those people you gathered with are potentially in the hospital. Not to be like super grim about it.
Yeah, it's crazy though, because people just don't see it that way. I guess it's like the Washington Post wrote a story about how, and even everyone now has. CDC came out and said, hey, fam, we should cancel our Thanksgiving. Dr. Fauci's like, hey, I'm an old man with some grandkids and I ain't going to see them. So don't worry, I'm doing it as well. Like, relax.
Yeah.
And it's when I talk to young people, especially Fort Worth industry people, it's just like this short term, like, well, I got to eat. I got to figure out ways to make things happen. But then there's also this like just this bravado or confidence. And I think that's a classic Fort Worth. Like, if you want to say don't mess with Texas, that almost starts with Fort Worth. Like, we have this like bravado. And I feel like that is what's going on right now, is everything is as if it's normal here.
Yeah. Well, and there was that Star Telegram article maybe last Friday or Saturday that was interviewing people saying that exact same thing. Like, like, I know a few people that have had it. I'm going to go have brunch at this place. Like, if I get it, whatever, like, odds are in my favor. And honestly, if you're a 25 to 40-year-old, like, yeah, the odds are in your favor. But if you're that 25 to 40-year-old who then goes to Thanksgiving with your 75 plus grandparent, like, the odds are not in their favor, and that's your fault. Like, we all need therapy for something. Everyone needs therapy for something, but like, you're going to need some hardcore therapy if you brought COVID to your grandparents and the worst happened.
It's like you got
like
you got turkey, you got someone bringing the stuffing, and you bring in the COVID. You got two cases of COVID for you here. Fit it on the table.
Yeah. But in all seriousness, like, there's good news, right? Like, we have two companies with greater than 95% efficacy on their vaccines. Pfizer has already filed for their emergency use authorization. I don't know what the timeline is on when that gets granted. But like, they say 60 million doses of it can be produced in just the rest of this year and over 1 billion next year. Granted, it's a double dose, so half that for the number of people. But there is good news. There is a finish line, and I'm hoping that because we have a finish line, people might be more motivated to run through the finish, as opposed to these last 3 to 4 months have sort of been an endless pit of like depression and anxiety of COVID mixed with election BS and all the stress around that. And so now it's like, there's a finish line. Like, let's get there. Like, let's run through it together. Like, let's unite on this and run through this. And with that, Texas was selected by Pfizer as one of 4 states for them to test out the logistics of distributing the vaccine. It doesn't mean that Texas gets the vaccine first. I don't think anybody has come out with a concrete plan on what that will look like yet. I assume we're going to go to elderly and frontline workers first. At least I would hope. But because of Texas's size, general lack of density, diversity in both age and ethnicity, that's pretty cool that Texas gets to be one of the, I guess, guinea pigs or test areas for how do we distribute this vaccine that has to be kept at sub-zero temperatures over a massive area. And so that, I'd say that's a positive. That gives us something to look at. And so if you are still considering Thanksgiving with your family, like sit 20 feet away from each other in the yard, outside, everybody bring their own food, their own utensils.
Hopefully the weather stays amazing. It's been incredible out here.
It has been incredible. Honestly, I hope that it's terrible so that nobody wants to drive anywhere. But yeah, this weather's been incredible. Maybe.
Yeah, I've also heard the Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine is 94.5 effective. If that's and that one's actually potentially, it looks like, only needs to be refrigerated. So that's also a promising one from a little bit of less scale.
Yeah, and I don't.
I just saw that in the Wall Street Journal here.
Yeah, Moderna and Pfizer both have crushed it. Really knocked it out of the park. I think both of them are double doses right now, which I think we'll have to find some way to make sure that people get both.
Well, yeah. I mean, do you even think people are going to take it? You think people are going to take it? I mean, let's look at, 50% of the world says they're not going to take it. 88% of people who voted for Trump thinks the election was fraud. No one's believing anything these days that is government.
I think I've seen some really interesting things thrown out around paying people to take it. Like, let's tie a stimulus to taking both doses of the vaccine. I think that's a really interesting idea. This has been proven that it works. And even though Moderna took money from Operation, whatever Trump called his Operation Warp Speed, Pfizer didn't. But both of these have been developed now. They're clearly not also Democratic hoaxes. Trump is taking credit for these. And so even if he's just trying to take credit for it, I think there's a long-term effect of people saying my sultan or my deity told me that he likes the vaccine, and so I'll take the vaccine. So I do think that those people would be open to taking it. I'm really interested to see how the anti-vax crew feels about it. But again, I think doing something like tying a stimulus into it could be a really interesting way to get people really easy money and get them a highly effective vaccine.
Now, are you? I mean, that one's going to be interesting. How to educate people on that. I love that idea personally, but I think that's still the people who need that money probably most for the stimulus also are the people who are questioning it, man. When I have those conversations with family members or these young families in our neighborhood, it's there's this vaccine fear, which is, just not right.
But I think that financial incentive would maybe bring down that wall a little bit. But I think what we're nervous about is we have seen very, very failed attempts at public health communication over the last year, and that's going to go away in a few months. Dr. Fauci will be able to speak openly and be able to give good advice. We have people that will put money behind national awareness programs. So I think because we've seen a really poor example of it over the last 8 months, people are right to be skeptical about how we're going to educate on this. But I think that we have people coming into place who know how to empower the right people to make this successful.
So what is your take going into Christmas? I mean, now let's say you come back from Disney World, you got a new sweater, you got some new gear, and you come back now the Christmas talk is happening. I'm on the page that this is just still going. Be out of control.
No, it's going to be so bad.
Yeah, right.
Like if we think
Yeah.
Tarrant County putting up 2,200 cases a day is bad, like let's double that with 30 to 40 deaths a day. Like that's where I realistically see us being in a month.
Wow.
Um, just based on the trend line. I mean, I'm no medical expert, obviously, but I would say that small business owners have had to be overly informed, because we've essentially been handed the keys as the gatekeepers for COVID, and
Yep.
so just based on where the numbers are, some simple math, and linear regression, or I guess exponential regression. Tarrant County is not going to be in a good place in a month, and so yeah, plan to not do Christmas with your family either. Drop off those
Yeah.
presents, and run away as fast as you can. But yeah, I don't see this getting better until maybe February at this point.
Yeah. Let's I mean there's so much I could ask you around this as we just talk through it, because I think everyone's just dealing with the dialogue. But let's go to some Fort Worth stories. I know this is a different show than usual. We're both taking our precautions this show, doing this virtual, and then as well as really changing up our family holidays. But let's talk about let's look at some successes or some upticks in Tarrant County news. What is something that you think we should be kind of celebrating right now? I know it's a slow news week. Usually it kind of is over the holidays, but what is something that you feel like is going well for Fort Worth?
Yeah, something we talked about a couple months ago was that Tim Love had presented this cabin concept along the river by his restaurant Jamel, and that got shot down because of some things they needed to clean up. This past week, they brought it back to the city council for zoning approval. It got approved. I think that's a really cool thing. The restaurant already has outdoor garden seating, and this is basically adding a micro hotel concept onto that will use shipping containers as cabins. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't ever expect to experience it as a local, but continuing to see people invest this kind of money into areas that have a lot of open land that can be developed, I think is a step forward for the city. I don't know, does that pique your interest at all?
Not necessarily me. I'm pretty anti going to white settlement, but that's
Yeah.
unless it's unless it's for, I mean, the nature reserves out there, and that's one of my favorite places in Tarrant County. But and honestly, I see that area becoming really healthy. It's a great area. I mean, one of my places that I recently saw my mom and my stepdad at was a little winery in Azle, Texas. And it was kind of the same setup where it was a winery and it had like little hotel, like maybe like 4 to 6 rooms. And they stayed there from Thursday to Sunday. And I just drove up there to hang out, have some wine. And they seemed to really love it. And I mean, I think it's a cool idea for a lot of people who live in rural Texas who do want to come to the city, but then also still have some, just some more space. And so I could totally see this being something that my parents do. And I think that's the target audience for something like this. And so, yeah, I could see this being successful.
Yeah, I think it gives something that a unique experience that you wouldn't necessarily associate with Fort Worth up until now. Like I feel like there are so many cool Airbnbs around like Austin, San Antonio, and further west, where it's like, oh, that seems like a really cool destination to go try something out. And so I feel like something like this right outside of downtown gives a feel of maybe a bigger city amenity to me. And so, yeah, like you said, it's not something that I would necessarily want to do
Yeah.
or like hop into, but I think it's a good experience for the city to have, something that could be an attraction.
Well, you know that like White Settlement area and Lake Worth, all of that. One, the history there is super cool. I don't know if you're aware of the history there, where it used to be like basically like an entertainment park, kind of like a Six Flags or a carnival. Kind of, they had rides,
Mm,
and like it was a place that this was like pre-flying. Like that entire area
interesting.
around the lake was where families would go to like um, to hang out. And
Yeah.
if you look at pictures, it's super cool. But then once flying happened and travel kind of went larger, it kind of lost its flair. But so, anyways, but I think this idea of it coming back, um, one, it's beautiful over there. The lake's beautiful, but then also if Fort Worth continues to grow, I see this area potentially kind of being like Bee Cave is the Austin. And I don't
Mm,
know if you've ever been to the Bee Cave area. It's gorgeous, but it's kind of the more naturey side of the city. But then it just has a more older, affluent, outdoor dinings, more wines, more places to eat like that, homey feel. But it's so close still to the big city. I
yeah.
think this is kind of a place that's becoming very attractive in Fort Worth for people who want more land, want more houses, want to have to be a little bit more spread out, and have that slower pace. So it seems to be a promising area. I always tell my parents are looking always to move because there's no reason for them to be in Wichita Falls anymore, and I think they
Yeah.
think moving by me is a good idea. And I always tell them, well, hey, go to you should check out Lake Worth, White Settlement area. Something you will do, yeah. Something you would do is go to these soccer games. If we have some soccer, you would do that. I I don't know if this as a Vaqueros a season ticket holder, this would do anything to stop you. But hey, I think this upcoming story that you're about to share with us about basically where Keller has proposed a $150 million soccer complex that could be home of a Fort Worth pro team. It's estimated $6 million that'll also provide youth soccer, 8,000 seat stadium. Um, it's an ambitious plan. They're saying it's your boy Kerry Moon um, gave the spearhead of the idea. What's your take? Thoughts about it as a soccer fan?
Yeah. I think that I think it's really intriguing. Um, I I wish that it wasn't Carrie Moon that was in charge of this or championing this plan for a lot of reasons, but especially since he believes that he should only be held accountable for a DUI if he had hit and killed somebody. Um, but yeah, this is essentially an 8,000 seat stadium. It says with an unnamed professional soccer team to anchor the stadium. I would be very surprised if that unnamed team was not the Fort Worth Vaqueros, because they have been making a lot of investments into youth soccer in the city. And I know that talks of a stadium have been on the periphery for them and their ownership team for a while. So that's not like a surefire fact, but that's not it's not a fact. But I would be surprised if it's not them. What would make this very exciting to me is if uh, Fort Worth was able to use this to capture an NWSL team, which is the National Women's Soccer League. The NWSL is one of the few sports this year whose ratings are just booming. Like they're up like 600% in ratings when all other sports are down. Granted, they're starting from a much lower number, but it's a positive sign. They just expanded into LA and Louisville, which I believe gives them 12 teams now. They're a very progressive league, and are very aggressive about expansion. And I think that Fort Worth needs to get itself on the map with with a professional league before Dallas does. Because if Fort Worth doesn't go aggressively after this, then we know that team's going to get placed in Dallas before too long. So that's what would make this really exciting to me is if that's a good point. Because when it's saying a professional soccer team, it's not saying MLS. Like FC Dallas is in Dallas area. Like Fort Worth is not going to get an MLS team. This is going to be USL, NPSL, a lower league that just doesn't have the pull of being MLS. And so I think that Fort Worth would be selling itself short, or Keller, since that's where it will be, but still part of Tarrant County, that it would be selling itself short if it pursued this, but did not pursue that partnership or that team.
Yeah, no, and I think that's that kind of separation, giving us something. I mean, women's soccer has been thriving, all the way because of our amazing leaders in the sport from a national level, from Women Olympics. I mean, all my friends who have girls that like kids playing soccer is the jam. It's not basketball, it's not volleyball, it's not softball. It's I want to play soccer and I want to see girls compete in soccer, and I think that's awesome. I think that's and that'd be really good for Fort Worth.
One other thing with this, and I don't know if he tried to shoot this shot in Fort Worth already, but the field where the Vaqueros have traditionally played, man, why am I blanking on it? It's right across from Casa Manana on University. The field that Fort Worth ISD is trying to sell.
Yep.
What could you do? What could you do with $150 million to that stadium? Like, why do we need to build a new one? Or not even to need that much money. Like that, I feel like that would be a really cool thing. Hey, right next to Dickies Arena, now we have our professional soccer stadium that could also be used for like football playoffs or whatever during the off season. So I feel I like the idea of this plan, but I feel like there are execution pieces of it that I would like to see done a little bit differently, or other options thrown out. And so, I mean, I'm sure that they probably have explored that field downtown, but I don't know, that seems like a little bit more of a layup than going out into Keller. But at the same time, there's more family age people out in Keller, more people that probably have like youth sports going on. And so maybe that makes more sense. But I feel like that space that is already existing could be improved in a really cool way to match Dickies Arena and attract a big team there.
I wonder that as we continue to have that pull between like city limits, Fort Worth, and then the rest of Tarrant County, how much more do we have to be more cohesive as we're growing, we're sprawling out. And I think it's easy for a Plano Frisco,
Yeah.
Allen to behave this way. And I wonder what, like, if you looked at the beginning of the Dallas Metro, when did these kind of like gravitational shifts and where they wanted things started happening? I just don't know if we're that big yet to start thinking
Yeah.
of like something this massive in Keller, which is
Yeah.
a good distance away from. And the other thing that I think it misses on, and this might be, I'm shooting the wrong shot here, but you can let me know if I am. Is we have, I mean, here even in East Fort Worth, right? The Latino population who loves soccer. Our fields are being played with grown men playing soccer. We have little kids playing soccer, and I also think the access for those communities, it's more fair to have, who I also think would go to these games.
Well, that
would also do better here than all the way up in Keller, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and as somebody who does go to the Carol's games outside of COVID times, like that's who's there. As somebody who plays in their 7-on-7 leagues, like that's who I'm on teams with. And so I agree with you there. The other piece of that with being in Keller is we have Frisco and FC Dallas as an example of this done poorly. Like FC Dallas, I think has been bottom 2 in the league in attendance like every single year. Like people do not go to FC Dallas games because they're so out of the way and so hard to get to. Like we should, if we're going to, if Tarrant County is going to invest in this, we should not put it in a place to mirror the mistakes that we have seen Dallas make. And so that's what makes me a little bit nervous about it going up in Keller as well. Is that like maybe we do attract an NWSL team or a high level USL team. Are they going to get the support from the population here if it's out in Keller?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the Keller demographics. I was just seeing if there was a large Hispanic population out there, and we're talking 88% Caucasian in Keller, Texas.
Yeah.
Just to give a perspective, Fort Worth is 38%, with 22% Hispanic. That's white Hispanic, I guess, and then they're also then doing the other Hispanic, which is like Dominican, Puerto Rican, 11.2%. So you have, 34% of the Fort Worth population. So yeah, I mean that's to me like probably a big kicker, and it's definitely going to shape the demographics. Like if you're saying, and it makes sense that the Vaqueros are going to go up to Keller, I wonder how that changes the stadium demographics.
One thing this does lead us into, though, is that Fort Worth's first, like, highest level professional team was announced last weekend, and that is the Panther City Lacrosse Club.
Hey,
so I've never really watched lacrosse, never really got into it, but they have a rapidly expanding professional league, and Fort Worth and Dickies Arena has landed that team for North Texas, which I think that's a really cool, really exciting thing to finally say that we have a pro team. I don't know when they're planning to start playing games, but they had a really cool release video. I really like the look of their logo. I like that they chose Panther City. It feels very local.
That's awesome. I could see me rock a Lacoste jersey with a Panther City on it. I'd be about that action.
Yeah, it's something I've never done before, but I would get into it to support a Fort Worth team. And I think that's a general consensus with any pro team that came here, is that Fort Worth people would get into it and really own it. And so I'm excited that the city gets the chance to prove that with a sport that's maybe not as big in North Texas as it is in other parts of the country.
Yeah, I love this. And I think this conversation that we had around Fort Worth finding opportunities to separate itself from Dallas by investing in lacrosse and soccer, and potentially, I love the idea of getting a women's professional team here in Fort Worth and being proactive there. These are all some great things, strategic moves long term that hopefully wins out for the city. Now, I think it's a good time to close kind of the show. We talked about the bad, the ugly, about the holidays and COVID. So for those of you who are going to be doing your thing, please be safe. Please be thoughtful. And again, if you've listened to this show, this is one of our most unique and slowest shows due to quarantine and just kind of COVID taking the news. But we appreciate that you've listened, and please continue to do so. We're going to take a break this upcoming Monday and come back in December, which is the 7th. And so thank you so much for checking it out, and looking forward to continue to provide weekly updates about Tarrant County and Fort Worth. Have an amazing Thanksgiving. Be Gucci. Swipe, dopamine swipe, dopamine swipe. Follow us, likes, double tap. Now they control your life, control your life. Dopamine swipe, dopamine swipe. Follow us, like double